Hi guys, so welcome back to my channel. Today I have a little recording for you. This was a workshop I had at Silpakorn University. It was the art faculty of a university close to Bangkok. And this presentation was for an audience of mostly painters and traditional artists who were interested in adding AR to their traditional art. So it was basically young students who never touched AR before. So if you're already familiar with all the AR stuff, AR basics, you can skip a little bit to the actual workshop part. But if you're a traditional artist who wants to understand from the very beginning what this is all about, this is for you. So let's get started. So my goal is to give you a general overview about augmented reality and inspire you to try it in your own art practice. I will show you some examples first and then how to apply it onto your own artwork. A quick reminder before we start, if you want to follow the workshop part later also, you need Lens Studio 4.5 installed and also Snapchat on your phone, and please log into your account so you can start right away. For those who don't know me or if you're new to the channel, my name is Ines, welcome. I work mostly with augmented reality and like social AR. That means I build filters for Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok. But I also do like mixed reality with the Quest headsets, and I love to combine traditional art with AR, which is why I'm doing this workshop today. I studied multimedia VR design in Halle, which is a small city in the middle of Germany, and I specialized on game design and VR development. But for the last 3 years, I worked mostly in social AR, which is AR filters for Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. So what is AR exactly? I will just explain very briefly for those who are not familiar. So AR extends the real world with an additional digital layer. And we use software to keep track of the images or the object's rotation and position, and basically stick the digital content on top of it. So it looks like it's one thing. And since it's mixed with the real world, it looks very believable. And it's just a really cool technology. AR can be experienced in many ways today, for example, in the headsets Meta Quest, the Apple Vision Pro, but also the Snapchat Spectacles, which are very lightweight AR glasses. But the most common form of AR is found in our smartphones. So every day, millions of people are interacting with AR through the face filters or world effects on social platforms like Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok. It's very different to VR, although we can combine VR and AR under the term XR, which means extended reality. But the true unique and beautiful aspect to AR is that it always relates to the real world. So unlike VR, which is completely like isolated in a little headset, AR integrates the real world and you can share it with people more easily. And it just is anchored in the real world, which I think is really cool. Both have their use cases, obviously, but personally, I mostly enjoy AR for the reasons I already mentioned. I also have a great appreciation for analog art, and I love merging the digital with the analog art in my personal projects. So let me show you some works from this year. For example, I painted this little pond in oil, and I used it as a basis for the AR effect. I also painted the textures for the 3D models in oil. This gives the model just a very rich and interesting texture that blends in with the oil painting very well and creates a round experience that looks believable. For this AR effect, I scanned some flowers and added digital butterflies around it. It was some crochet flowers I found on a market. And for that reason, I also used a crochet texture for the butterflies, again, to blend everything together, the digital and the real. And create a believable crochet world. And this is an example how you can use not only paintings, but also sculpture as the basis for your AR effect. This is easily one of my favorite projects from this year. It was a collaborative art installation inspired by the Japanese wishing tree. It was created in the context of an artist residency in Gelsenkirchen, which is a smaller city in Germany that has a lot of issues with their economics, and there's a lot of buildings empty, and there's just a lot of poverty also. So they had this big tech festival and invited me as an artist for the artist residency. I was just really inspired by talking to the residents, the citizens there, and that they were so they had so much engagement and motivation to fill this empty space in the city with their own ideas, and it was just a very creative environment overall. So I asked the visitors of the tech festival to take one of the empty leaves and paint it in, write down their wishes and their ideas for the city. I later scanned all of these leaves and attached them to a digital wishing tree. So the tree over time was growing and could be experienced by everyone over a website and an AR experience. So you can place the tree in your own living room and explore the different ideas and wishes that people have. This way, I was able to transport all this fire that the people have there, also outside of this small city, into whole of Germany and the World Wide Web. So just an example, you can also use make interactive art installations and make your art accessible outside of your region. Of course, there are many more reasons why it might be interesting for you to try AR. Like I said, AR makes your art more accessible to people worldwide, and they can experience your artwork as if they are in the room with them. It gives them a real world scale, basically. It's also a great way to stand out and make your art even more interesting, maybe even for galleries or collectors. By exploring a new medium, you can extend your artwork. And in digital art, the possibilities are really endless because you're not restricted to physics. For example, you don't have gravity. You can just have floating things around your art, or you can create materials that would be impossible in the real world. With AR, you can add an additional layer of meaning or context to your artwork. Add a layer of depth or a statement that is not so obvious when you look at the artwork without this technology. And lastly, of course, it's fun, and trying a new medium can bring you new ideas, a new perspective, and a new skill, which is always good to have. So to give you an overview of what is possible, I collected some AR works of friends and colleagues in the AR space. And I hope this inspires you for the second part of the workshop, which is the practical part, where we create our own AR artwork. The most common type of AR you will see is based on flat images. This is called an image tracker, and here we can already see two examples. In the first video, the artist added a completely new digital asset. He painted it in VR, and he just let the asset come out of the big flat canvas he painted in oil. In the second example, the artist didn't add any new digital assets at all. They used the texture of the painting itself and reused it, recycled it in a new and interesting way to give the image some depth. So that is also possible. But not only paintings can be used for an image tracker. You can use anything that is flat and has a high contrast texture on it. So for example, here we see a banknote, a carpet, or even a t-shirt design, or even tattoos, like in these examples. Next, we have body tracking, which means the software understands the pose of the human and attaches the digital content to your every movement, and it can also hide objects behind your body. This is mostly used in fashion, but you can also see it in performances. These are examples where you don't even need a screen at all. They used a projector to project digital content on top of the dancers to add another interesting layer to it. Another part of our bodies that we can augment is the face. This is very popular, especially in Snapchat and Instagram, but we can use it in an artistic context also. So in these last two videos, you can see the artists created a immersive physical exhibition space and integrated the video feed with the AR face effect as part of their sculptures. And this is a good way to connect even more with your audience, and they become a part of your installation, which I think is really cool. Next, we have model tracking, which is very interesting, at least for me, because I couldn't find many examples of it yet. Which just means for me there's still a lot of space for you to explore and maybe fill the gap and create something that hasn't been done before a lot. In this type of tracking, we use a 3D object. So basically, you can use a sculpture you made and add AR digital content on top of it. The last one I want to talk about is GPS or world AR, or like city scale AR. And for this, you can use whole houses or public spaces as a basis for your AR effect. Like the video on the left, where they used a house front and added a full explosion of chickens and flowers and decorations. On the right, you see a world tracker. Here, you only need to have a flat surface like the floor and add like a whole digital world on top of it. This works best if there is still a relation to the real exhibition space, the real environment, and if your digital art picks up on the theme or the overall decoration of the exhibition space. Pokemon Go is a popular example for world AR. The band Gorillaz did a full AR music video promo in New York Times Square, where they added the characters, these ape characters of their band, on top of buildings and had like videos instead of advertisements. And I just really love this example. It transformed a whole street into one immersive experience. If you're interested in artists that use AR already with physical artworks, please check out these artists on screen now. I think they're doing a really good job in combining the two mediums, but of course, also any artists I already mentioned in the slides before, please feel free to check them out. They're doing amazing work. But now let's see how we can apply all of this on our own artworks. So welcome to the practical part of the workshop. I don't have any personal art with me, so I used a cover art of a book I bought in Chiang Mai, Garden of Hell. I can highly recommend, it's very fun to read. But everything I show you today can be applied to your own artwork as well, and in the end you should have something similar like this or even better. For this, we have some software options. And if you want to go deeper into the topic and try out some other software, now's the time to make a screenshot. We will focus on Lens Studio today because it has many advantages over the other options. It is very easy to get started. You can test your effect right away in the Snapchat app. We can share it immediately with your friends, or you can use it in an exhibition. And the AR effects also work in the browser. So even if the visitors of your exhibition, they don't have Snapchat installed, they can just scan a QR code and the browser opens and they can use the effect inside of there. So it's very accessible. And lastly, it's free, which is always good. So this is how I structured the workshop. First, the students created a general concept or developed an idea what they wanted to add onto their artwork. So thinking about what expands the idea, what fits the theme, and or what could add another layer to it. And for this, they considered 2D, 3D, text, and audio. And I encouraged them to also make a sketch so I can also get a basic idea what they have in mind and could give some feedback, and we can just talk about it if it's possible in the time also. Then after lunch, we went to created some assets. And for this part, we used some free tools, some browser tools, but also some websites where they could get free 3D assets just to make the process easy for them, because most of them didn't really use like Blender, for example. So I mostly focused on free tools. And after that, we built their effects. We went into Lens Studio, set up a basic image tracker because most of them were like painters. I showed them how to use parts of their artwork on top of the image, so recycle their textures, how to add sound and interactivity. And in the end, I also showed them how to upload their effects so they can already use it and share it. All right, so let's get started with the workshop. So to follow the full workshop, you should have at this point a flat image just from top-down perspective of your artwork. Possibly, if you already have a digital version of it, we need something like this in the end. So just a clean cutout. We also want to have some kind of video where you're like moving around your image to test it later in the software, so you don't have to send it to your phone all the time. So these are the three, maybe four assets I would recommend you to have. And of course also have Lens Studio installed. For this step, I'm using Photopea, which is just a free version of Photoshop. If you have Photoshop installed, great, you can use that to follow along. It's a very simple step. So I'm just dragging my photo in here. And what I'm creating now is basically just this clean cutout. So if anyone doesn't have that yet, I'll show you how to do it. We can use this tool, the crop tool, and just drag the borders so it matches with the image. Like this. And click the confirm button here. Awesome. Now I'm going to save it, and I click on File, Export As, and JPEG. This is all fine. I'm just gonna call it tracker and click the save and choose a location to save. So this will be this one. So for my sketch, I wanted to elevate these two elements. And for this, I use the polygon lasso select. So if you keep pressed on this icon, you have some more options, and I use the polygon lasso select, which is more easy. So I'm zooming in, and I click, 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 click to add more points and make the curves and stuff. I will speed up this process and just do it very roughly, but please take your time to make it as clean as you want. So just a quick tip. I need to turn off the AC, it's so cold. Just a quick tip, if you made your selection and, for example, there's a hole in here and you want to cut out the hole, this polygon lasso select has more options up here. So this one will subtract, so take away parts of your selection. I select this tool and just go in and select the part I want to delete from my selection, basically. And now you can see it's kind of, it took away part of the selection. On the other hand, if you want to add things, for example, I need to add the fan or the arm, this one is the one to add things to your selection. So I'm gonna click on this one and just continue selecting my stuff. I'm just doing it very roughly right now. Yeah, so, and a double click and you're good to go. Okay, let me speed this up for you. So after selecting your object or the part of your image you want to elevate, you can press Control J, or on Mac, I think it's Command J or Apple J. And now here on the right, you can see your layers. And if you disable the main layer by clicking on the little eye symbol, you see that now we have a cutout of this object. Now I want to crop it again, like we did in the beginning with the image. So I'm using the crop tool and just dragging the image, the borders, so it fits my cutout image, and I press confirm. And after this, we go over file, export as, and then PNG. And this is important because PNG can save transparency, so transparent pixels. If we would save it as a JPEG, all the cutout areas like this would turn black, and we don't want that, so we need to choose PNG. Leave everything how it is. I'm just gonna call it monk and save it into my file. Now, if you want to cut out more objects, just go over Edit and Undo until the crop is undone and you have the full image back. Enable the main layer again, disable the layer we just cropped, and just do the same thing with a different object. So I'm gonna cut out this crocodile using the polygonal lasso select. And I'm just going to trace the object again. And now I do the same thing, Control J, and I have my little croc. I'll crop it so it is nice and snug. And file, export as PNG. To call it croc. Yes. Okay. Based on my sketch, I also want to add some 3D plans around the book. And for that, I could either model them myself, or I'm being very lazy and I'm going to sketchfab.com and not a parrot, but I want some jungle plants. And I'm just looking for any objects that look nice, but have no dollar sign here because I'm not gonna buy anything today. If you have a commercial project, then please pay for your assets. But for today, I'm just looking for a free asset, and it usually has this little download icon, no dollar sign, and then you should be good to go. I think these look really good, and it's also free to download. If you're using it for commercial projects, please always check the license if you're allowed to do that, or you need to mention them. For today, I think this is fine, so I'm just gonna download. And for this, you want to download a GLTF or a GLB. I think I'm gonna take a GLTF. FBX is also fine. We just need to take care of a lot of textures this way. With the GLTF, all the materials are already set up for us. Other websites I like to use for free 3D models are Turbo Squid, for example. all of these websites, of course, have amazing models that cost a little bit of money, but you can always find some free assets as well. Now it's time to open Lens Studio. So once you open Lens Studio, you need to log in with your Snapchat account. I'll do that real quick. My internet is so bad. Once you logged in, you can see the home screen, basically, where they already offer you some templates you can use. Everything's already set up. So I can recommend just looking into the different templates and just learn how they work, and you can customize them to your own needs. Here you can see even more. But today we want to use the marker template. So I'm gonna search for marker and click on this one. And marker basically just means image tracking. It's loading forever. Okay, let's go over all the panels of Lens Studio real quick because a lot of things are happening. On the right is the preview panel, and this is just a simulation of how the effect looks like on your phone. Down here, you can select different phone models if you want something specific or a specific layout. You can also click on this button here and your webcam will pop up. Mine is not working right now, but in your case, it should work. On the left, we have the objects panel, and this is basically a list of all the objects we have in our effect right now. You can see the objects also in the scene view, where you can pan around with the middle mouse button. You can rotate by pressing down the right mouse button and select stuff with the left mouse button. So what do we have here exactly? We have a camera, which is the main camera of your phone, basically. We have an image marker, which is this placeholder image that we will replace in a second. We have some scripts that don't really bother us right now. We don't need to change anything for now. There is another camera that is not important right now also. And this orthographic camera is for the UI. So for example, if we don't find the image, it shows you this little hint that you should look for the image tracker. And all objects underneath this camera, they don't get rendered in the final recording. But this does not have to concern you in any way right now. The resources panel is just a collection of all the assets that you want to work with. So in our case, we can already drag and drop all of the assets we created. So I select my cut out objects, the tracker, and just drag and drop them in here.
Right.
Then I want to replace this with our actual image. So we need to create a new image marker object. And we do that by going in the resources panel, press the plus, and search for image marker. Select this one. And now you can just find the clean cut out tracker image JPEG we saved and open it. Now that we have this tracker object, we can select the image tracker up here, go over in the inspector, and this is the panel where you can do all the changes, adjust the variables and the settings basically. And this is the input field where we need to drag our new created image marker. So just click on it, drag and drop it in here. And you can see it already exchanged the image we had. We also need to import the video that showed in the beginning. So click on this little drop down up here, choose from files, and select the image of your book. You might have to scroll up again and selected here. And now you can see this jumping guy from the template is working with our book cover. It even has a little wobble effect. But actually we will delete this monster very soon. For now, let's also import the video. So if you want to use a video as a preview footage, you go over here to the little video button. Again, from files, select the video with your image, scroll up, and you should have it in here. Yes. And this is just an easy way how you can preview your effect without having to send it to Snapchat after every single change you do. If you do want to try it on your phone, which is recommended because sometimes things are just not working how you would expect it, you can go up here and send it to Snapchat. You might have to pair your Snapchat account first. So you go in here, you scan this QR code with the Snapchat app and click on pair. After that, it should automatically send the lens to your phone. Okay. I will move it back to a static image, and now's the time to delete mark the monster. So just click on the guy, mark the monster, right click and delete. Now we want to add the cutout images that we created. So I'm going over here, add a mesh, and I choose a plane. This will just add this simple white rectangle into your objects panel. We have to drag it into the image marker so it becomes a child of the image marker for it to appear when the image marker is recognized in the camera feed. So I just drag and dropped it in here. I need to reset all of these transforms. So every object has this transform panel here where you can define the position. I will just zero this out. The rotation, I will also set this to 0, and the scale. So to show our texture, we need to create a new material for this material slot. So right-click in the resources panel, add new PBR material, and we want to select a simple PBR one. And now I'm just drag and dropping the PBR into the material slot. For now, nothing much changed because we still need to apply our textures. They have a base texture slot, and this is the one where we want to drag our cutouts. So for example, I'm dragging in the monk. And now you can see it's appearing on top of the plane. It has a funny effect now, which is called Z-fighting. It means that these two planes are at the exact same position. So they will always fight which plane gets rendered first. And we can avoid this by just moving the plane a bit up, and I'm using the move tool up here. When you click this, some arrows appear, and I'm just dragging it a little bit up. So now the camera knows exactly what to render first. The monk still has a black background, although in this material it looks transparent. And this is because the blend mode in the material is disabled right now. So if you click on the material and change the blend mode to normal, it will also calculate the transparent pixels, and it should look normal right now. The monk is still a bit too big for the cover, so I will use the scale tool, which is this one up here, which gives you another 3 arrows with like the cubes on top. And I'm just dragging on the center cube, so it scales all of the axes simultaneously at the same scale, basically. And now I'm just positioning it over the monk very roughly, like this. And I want it to hover a bit over the book. So I will also drag on the blue arrow to give it some distance from the book. You can already see a slight effect here, but to really make it pop, I want to add a shadow underneath the monk. We can do that very easily by adding a shadow plane. This is a material that Snapchat already provides for us. So click on the image marker and on the plus and search for shadow plane and just add it into here. Now we can't see the shadow plane right now, and that is because it's not facing the right direction. We need to set the rotation to 0. And now you can at least see the selection. The shadow plane itself is transparent, and it is only there to catch the shadow from objects. So I will scale it in place that it like covers the book. And now I can also use only the red one to scale on the x-axis and the green one to scale on the y-axis. This looks pretty good. It's not, we don't see any shadows yet, and that is because on the plane with our monk, we need to enable the shadow mode to caster. So click on the plane object, go under the random mesh component, and select shadow mode caster. And already you can see a slight shadow. We can make the shadow darker by going into our lighting setting. So click on the drop down on lighting, click on this specific light. And in the light source section, we have some settings, and I'm just dragging the shadow density a bit up. And this is up to you how dark you want your shadows. I'm also going to increase the blur a little bit, so it's a bit diffused. And that already looks pretty cool. I will probably scale it up a little bit and drag it up a bit higher for a better effect. We have another artifact. If you look closely here, no, wait. This one. You can see the shadow is a bit cut off, and it's always a bit tricky with the transparency of planes. We can avoid this kind of clipping effects by going into the monk material and using alpha test instead of normal. And that should resolve the issue. Now it's time to clean up the project a little bit. So I will rename this PBR to the monk material. Is this how you spell monk? Or with it? It's probably the monk. Let me Google that. Monk. Oh, it's with a K, of course. Of course. I'm so sorry. Okay. So here we have the monk material. I'm renaming the plane to monk as well. So everything is tidy. And now I'm just going to do the same thing with the crocodile. So again, click at the plus, add a plane. I'm moving the plane on top of the image marker and renaming it to croc. Then I'm resetting all the transforms because right now it's very far away. So you can either zero it out like this, or you go right click in here on the transform and just press reset. I'm creating a new PBR material, and PBR only means that it interacts with light sources. So it can cast shadows, it reacts how bright the light is in our scene. And I'm naming it Croc. Again, in the base texture slot, I'm dropping the crocodile texture. I set the blend mode to alpha test, and then I only have to apply the material into the render mesh visual for the croc plane. Now it's time to position it, so I'm moving it up a bit, scaling it down. That looks okay, good enough. And to make it cast a shadow, I am also enabling the shadow mode and set it to caster. All right, so we are done with our 2D assets, kind of. I think the croc could be rotated a little bit. I'm not sure why that did not match right away. So let's see how we can add 3D assets. So the 3D models that I downloaded from Sketchfab. So when I downloaded my plans from Sketchfab, I got this zip file, and I'm just going to extract it in the same folder. And it gives us all of these files. We don't have to look into any of that. I'm just going to take the GLTF file and drag it into the Blend Studio software. Press import, and it just takes a little bit to load it. And once it's in here, you can see a new object called scene with a few subfolders like meshes, textures, materials, and this file. And we only need to drag this one into the scene, and it automatically set up everything for us. And look at that, beautiful. I will just scale it down to have a bit of an overview what's going on. Okay. And now I'm just gonna select the assets that I want to have in our effect. So for example, I want this palm tree. I click on it. It automatically opens up all of these children object of the parent. I want to use this parent object here because it includes the bottom part of the plant and the top part. So I'll just select this one and drag and drop it outside of the scene of this whole object and onto the camera. Now I can disable the scene for now because I don't want to see it anymore. And we only have this one palm tree left. I will just rename it Palm Tree 1. And to attach it to our image tracking effect, again, I need to drag it in here so it's a child of the image marker. It's very far away, so I will again reset all the transforms. Now it's very big, but that is fine. I will just scale it down to a reasonable size like this and position it wherever I want it to appear. Maybe like this. Rotate it a little bit. So, like this. Okay, that looks pretty cute. Only one thing that you notice is I put the palm tree behind the book, but in our preview, it's not occluded by the book. It means the palm tree is not hidden behind the actual object. We can fix that easily by adding a occluder object. So again, I'm selecting the image marker. I go on the plus here. I want to add a box. And this is just because it resembles the shape of the book. I will scale it down to match our tracker. Let me try that again. So I will scale it on the z-axis, on the x-axis that it roughly matches, and the y as well, like this. And now I'm renaming it to be the occluder. And now I need to give it a special material that Snapchat already provides for us. So we only have to press plus in the resources panel and search for occluder. Okay. And then over here in the render mesh visual, when you select the occluder, go in the inspector and select the render mesh visual, we can drag and drop the occluder into the material slot. And now you can see it gets occluded very nicely. It might be a bit too big on some sides, so I will just position it a bit down. Yes, that makes more sense because the book cover is the top face of the cube, I guess. All right, perfect. So I'll just add a few more of the plans and we can see what else we can add to this effect. Enabling our GLTF object again, and I'm just checking what plans I want. So I want this one. Looking again if this is the whole object. Yes, it is. And I'm dragging it outside of the scene object. So when I disable it, only this one is left. Dragging it into the image marker, resetting all the transforms, and scaling it down, positioning it. Maybe like this. And I'll rotate. I will just speed it up a little bit. If you want to duplicate an object, you can just right-click and select duplicate. And this will make a copy of the object that you can just position differently, rotate differently, and add some variation. So the same thing goes for our 2D assets. If I want another croc, I can just duplicate it and maybe even scale it negatively on the X. So I'm just putting a minus in front of the X value, and this will rotate the crocodile around. We're not looking at the right face anymore, but we can just go in the crocodile material and enable two-sided. This means that both sides of the plane will get rendered. And now I can just position it like I want, here, for example. So when I'm happy with my little composition, I can just right-click and delete this scene object because I have all the plans I want for now. And one more thing I forgot to tell you is that, of course, not only our 2D objects can cast a shadow, also our 3D objects cast a shadow. So we can select, for example, this banana leaf and select it as a caster. And this just makes it even more realistic. We can adjust the density if I think this is a bit too harsh. And I will do the same with this one, like this. If, for example, you want to change the position of the shadow, like the direction where the light comes from, you can go under lighting select this light. This is a directional light. And you have a little icon here. You can just rotate it a bit around and adjust it so it fits your style. You can also increase the intensity, and you can see all of our PBR materials are reacting to this light. I don't want to have it that bright, so we'll leave it like this. And maybe decrease the blur radius a little bit to have the shadows pop. So just by adding some 2D assets and 3D assets, you can create a really interesting effect and add an extra layer to your artwork. There's two things I still want to show you today, then we are done. When you test it on your phone, you might see this effect where you just have the lens open and the image is not tracked yet. And it gives you this hint that says, look for the image, but the image is still the template's placeholder. So I want to replace this with the actual book cover. And for this, I'm going in the orthographic camera. I click on the drop down. I select the magnifying hint. And in here, preview texture, I want to change this to our actual book cover. So I imported it earlier. I'm just going to drag and drop it in here. And you can see it got exchanged. The last and very important step is to actually upload your effect to the internet so people can use it and you can share it and you can use it in your exhibitions. For that, I would suggest to look into the project info. This is this button up here. You can give it a name like Cal and select an icon. I can just maybe use the book cover again and position it like this. And you can also add a lens preview, which is recommended, but you don't need it for now. Snapchat can also generate this preview for you if you don't want to record something right away. So we upload a video without the lens, and I just choose the preview video again. And it will, just like in the preview panel, it will just render it over it. Or if you already recorded something on Snapchat, you can upload it here. Apply. So now it tells us the maximum lens size is 8 MB, but an extra 10 MB for SnapML assets allowed. And this is because our effect is very heavy. It's like 17 MB. You might not have this issue, you might have it. I'm just going to show you a little trick how to reduce your asset sizes. You can, for example, compress your textures. I will just check on my croc and the monk texture, and if you select it, you can see some compression settings. Right now it's set on performance. I can set it to size and select low, and it will just reduce the size even more. Now, I'm pretty sure that the majority of our file size is because of the textures we use in the plants. So let's go in here and it is like 2 MB texture. That's way too big, so I'm gonna select size and like scale it down. The same goes for the other materials. I will just go and put all the settings on size small. And once I'm done, I can check our performance, our lens size, by clicking on the performance button and update. Let's see if that helped a little bit. Yes, that looks good. Normally, I would compress it even more because 7 MB is still pretty big for a small effect like this. We don't have any interaction in it yet. But that would require me to open all of these textures outside of the software, reduce the size outside of Lens Studio, so the original is already way smaller. But for now, I think it's fine. Let's check. We have no warning anymore, so let's apply this and click on Publish Lens. This will upload your whole effect into the cloud and will publish it on the Snapchat app or on the web. I will show you how that works in a second. So you have to select a lens folder. If you don't have folders yet, you can easily set them up in here. I will just select my community lenses and submit the lens. Now, there are a few more input fields where you have to fill out stuff. For example, the category, just select a random one. Just select the one that you think fits best. And lens tags, you can add art, crocodile, garden of hell. I mean, for this use case, it's not super important, but if you're building like a face filter, for example, you want to make sure that your tags are on point because people will find it this way. And yeah, that's basically it. You can press publish. You can set it on public, hidden, or offline. In hidden, only people with a link can access it. So if you want to have it in an exhibition, for example, hidden or public both work. I'm gonna set it on hidden. And then it will just take a little while, between 20 minutes and 1 day, I think, is mostly the time frame. And when it is done processing and it is through the review, you met all of the criteria, which is mostly just don't be a dick and don't make harmful content. You can click here, share web AR lens. This will create a link that you can share to anyone you want, and the browser will open and you can use it. This link you can also use to create a QR code that you can use in an exhibition, for example. So now you can use any generator. I'm just going to use this for an example. There's probably better ones out there. Paste it and you have a QR code. You can print it, people can scan it with their phones, and the effect will open in the browser. Yeah, that's basically it. Once it's uploaded and you have it on public, not hidden, you will see it in your Snapchat profile under the Lens tab, and you can try it every day, all day long. Anyone who has access to your image and this Snapchat effect can try your AR effect. So this is the end of the workshop. Wait, actually, Lens Studio has an asset library that is super useful. So if you need some quick 3D objects to try something out, or even want some cool effect, for example, I showed you I had these flames in my sketch. I can just search for flame, and I'm just importing the toon flame here, closing the asset library, placing it in the panel, and now we have a fire. Of course, I'm gonna drag it again into the image marker. I reset the position and drag it in place where I want it, like behind the book. And to see it, I need the preview again. Let's do it like this, and there you go. It was so easy. It took me like 10 seconds to add fire into my lens. And yeah, so make sure to check out all of the assets they have available. It's also super inspiring just to go through the asset library and try out different things. But yeah, I think that is the end of the workshop. Thank you so much for listening. If you made it all the way through, comment a fire emoji into the comments. I would really love to see also some effects you made. So if this was useful to you and you could apply it to your own artwork, please tag me. I would be so happy to see it and to share it. And if you want to learn more about AR, make sure to follow my YouTube channel, but also my Instagram, my Snapchat. I post mostly about AR and other tech geeky stuff. And I can't come up with a better outro, so that's it. I'll just peace out like this. Bye bye!